Hello and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to today's live YouTube lesson. Today we are going to talk about how to discuss and argue in English. Okay, so that is the subject of today. So thank you very much for joining, and I'm sure we're going to have an interesting lesson. I'm just going to share this lesson online and we can then begin. And here we go. Okay, so that has now been shared. We can begin. Maria, hello, Maria Rojas. Nice to see you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you're doing well. It's a good day today. It's nice and sunny. It's actually quite hot as well. I have noticed in Malta at the moment, it's certainly beginning to heat up in terms of the temperature. We'll wait for more people to join soon, but I'm sure at the moment it certainly is the type of day where people might want to go outside, enjoy the sun, and sunbathe for a little bit. Let me know how you guys are, and let me know if you have managed to do any sunbathing. Erdogan says, hello, Richard. How are you? I'm good, thank you. Sandra says, hi, Richard. Hi, Sandra. Lovely to see you on here. Georgia, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson as well. Let me know how you're all doing, by the way. So today we're going to have a look at how to discuss and argue in English. What we're going to look at is language in terms of how to control the conversation, to make sure that the conversation, let's say the word is, so the conversation doesn't become bad. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes there are certain things that can be, because certainly sometimes when you're discussing some things, it can become a little bit uncomfortable. So, for instance, now Evelina says hello, Evelina. Alejandra as well. Hello, good afternoon, Alejandra. So, just to explain, when talking about when discussing and maybe even arguing, sometimes you might end up in a situation where the conversation gets out of hand. If the conversation gets out of hand, it means it simply means it becomes, let's say, it becomes difficult. People might become angry and not enjoyable. So out of hand it means it's out of control, really. So this is a good term to know. The conversation gets out of hand. So we want to know, we're going to look at language we can use to make sure that the conversation doesn't get out of hand. It doesn't become difficult or people becoming angry or it's no longer enjoyable. Oksana says, hello, Richard. Hello, Oksana. Nice to see you here today. Welcome. Now, let me know if there is any particular topics that you sometimes find difficult to talk about in English as well. And we can have a little look at different types of language you guys can use to help control the conversation. So the conversation doesn't get out of hand. And so this is what we're going to go for, to be able to control the conversation so we can continue to talk to people and it's okay. So we'll look at some phrases to agree, to disagree, as well as somewhere in the middle as well. We'll use different examples from different topics. So we can look, in today's lesson, we can look at controversial topics. Okay, now controversial, it's a good word to know. Okay, controversial simply means sensitive in this case. Okay, controversial. Maybe it might be a sensitive. It's a sensitive topic because people can have strong opinions. Opinions. There we go. Okay, so that's the word controversial. Topics that are sensitive because people can have strong opinions. So we are going to look at language that we can use to help us to when talking about controversial topics. Irina says hello, and hello, Irina. Welcome to today's lessons. So controversial topics. I will let you guys let me know. Feel free to give me any examples. But I will give some examples during the session as well, and I will pick one or two controversial topics that I know people might talk about. So we'll look at the language that we can use to help us in these situations. But we are looking at language in terms to agree with someone, to disagree with someone, somewhere in the middle, and how to make an argument as well. And in this case, we'll also look at different ways how we can use questions as well. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, first of all, let's first off look at some language we can use when we want to agree with someone. Okay, simply put, what we can say is, okay, obviously we can say I agree. We can also say agreed. And it doesn't go any deeper than that. In a more, another way that we can say is good point. It simply means a good argument, I suppose. That's one way of looking at it. Ah, good point. Yes, good point. Synonym of this would be valid point. Now, a point, you make a point in an argument when discussing. So you make a point. You make a point, which is you make an argument. So that's something that we would be looking at. Erdogan says, I'm going to out very controversial Norva days. I'm going to out very controversial Norva days. Try again, Erdogan. I think you're missing one or two words there. So try and rewrite the sentence. See if we can understand what you want to say. Sandra says, at the moment in my country, we have a lot of controversial discussions about the situation. For example, lockdowns because of the coronavirus. Some people don't believe that the virus is serious or is a serious issue. Yeah, okay, we can definitely use the coronavirus as a good example, for example. Okay, but when you want to talk about a subject and you want to say an argument, you make a point, okay? So, for example, so we've looked at if you hear someone say good argument, you can say I agree, agreed, good point, valid point. And finally, you can also say other words like, let's say definitely. For example, you might want to say definitely, absolutely as well. And absolutely. And when you use this is strong language to mean, yeah, you 100% agree with what the person has said. Now, what happens if you disagree? Well, you can say, obviously, I disagree, but that's a little bit simple. We can, for instance, say, let's say, first of all, I'm not so sure, which simply means I don't think so. Oksana says, I started to learn outcomes upper intermediate unit 1, and I've watched your video entertainment. So I found your lessons on YouTube. Thank you. Excellent, Oksana. Thank you so much. Alejandra says, can I say I am for you point or I am for your argument? Between those two, I'd say I'm for your argument would be the better one, Alejandra. I'm for your argument. Georgia says in Italy, there is a lot of controversial discussions about the lack of aid to companies. Yes, that is also the case in the UK. Rina says, for me, the controversial topic is talk about the government. You can agree or disagree emotionally only because we are not experts, but everyone loves to talk about it. True. Erdogan says, when I go out, I am controversial at the moment about COVID-19. Okay, now I understand you, Erdogan. Okay, so we're talking about COVID-19 being controversial. Okay, good. So another way that we can disagree as well with people is by saying, I beg to differ. Now, differ is quite formal, but it's a good way to say, I disagree. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. And last one, now we could go on, but let's see if we can think of one last one. This is a good one. Okay. And I think it's one that I would encourage people to use, which is not necessarily. It's a polite way of saying you might be wrong or you probably are wrong. So in this case, it's a polite way to say you might be wrong on some levels. Okay. Now, when we say wrong on some levels, imagine you're making lots of different points. On some levels, you might be right. On some levels, you might be wrong. So that's what we mean by some levels, okay? So not necessarily. So Sandra says, Arena, I absolutely agree. There we go. Good stuff. Okay, so we've now looked at two types of language that we can use to agree and disagree. Now, let's look at the middle section, okay? You're not so sure. Maybe you agree a little bit, but you don't completely agree. So you can say, for example, what we would say you add on to some points. So you can say, okay, so I see your point, but, and that's a good start. I see your point, meaning I understand your argument, but, and after but, you can go into a question, such as, for instance, I see your point, but what about so, and then a question. So if you're talking about COVID-19 and someone is saying, I don't agree with the lockdown, it's very bad for business, for example, okay, you can reply by saying, I see your point, but what about the health risks, for example? So this is a good way to show that you have understood what the person is trying to tell you. And instead of simply saying, no, you are wrong, you are telling the person, okay, I can understand what you're telling me, and there are some good points there, but what about? So to use this term, but what about, is a really good way to say, okay, I understand, but what about this point? What about this argument that we need to think about? Okay. And it works in other ways as well. For instance, you might say, again, let's say you might say, Not, what was it? Yeah, not necessarily. Okay, so not necessarily. Not necessarily. What about? Okay, so again, you can use what about. It's a really good way to, if you agree a little bit or you disagree a little bit, you can come in with what about. And that's a great way to introduce another idea. Another way you can use, instead of what about, you can say, let's consider. So perhaps you might hear someone say something and you disagree, let's say. You can say, let's say we go with, okay, interesting point. Now, if you say interesting point, it does not mean you agree. It also doesn't mean you disagree. It just means you think the argument is interesting. So you're not saying you agree or disagree. But you can say, okay, interesting point. Let's consider the problem of. Okay. Now, when you say let's consider, you are saying, let us think about this problem. And this is a really, whatever the problem might be. Now, this is a fantastic way to continue the discussion, to continue the conversation. Let us think about the problem, or let's think about this problem. So instead of saying you are wrong, absolutely wrong, okay, because you can use the strong language, absolutely, to agree and to strongly disagree. You can use this term, let us think about the problem, and you can then make the problem about, let's say, maybe there is a problem with their argument. Maybe there's a problem that the person has not thought of. They did not think about, maybe. So this is very useful language. And because we can use this language, it means we can control the conversation. The conversation does not need to get out of hand. So I'm now going to give you an example of how this conversation can go, and then we can have a little go as well. So, for example, person A might say the following. I think lockdown is really bad, and governments. Okay, ooh, there we go. And oops, governments are doing a really bad job. Okay, so that is person A. Person B can come in and say, I see your point, but what about the health risks, for example? Person B can also say, okay, interesting point, but let's consider the problem. And this is where you can come in with the problem. Let's consider the problem if we didn't have a lockdown. Okay, so this is how you can go about trying to continue the conversation, telling the person if you agree or disagree with someone, but at the same time trying to put a question as well, trying to point out maybe not, for example. So let's have a go. I am now going to be person A. I am going to come out with a sentence. Now, in the live chat section, I want you guys to reply. You can agree, disagree, or maybe you want to go for one of these middle ones and try to point, maybe what you want to try and ask a question, for example. So let's see, okay? We'll stick to the problem of COVID-19. So let's go with what's an argument? Let's say this, okay? Oh, Erdogan has come in with something. Not necessarily. Stay at home 2 months about this problem, illness. If you go to out, they said that infections, I don't agree them. Okay, I think I see what you're trying to say there, Erdogan. So you're saying not necessary, staying at home for 2 months stops the illness. If you go out, they say that you will get the infection, but you might not agree with them. Okay, so I think that's what you're saying there. So let's go with this. Oh, excellent, Erdogan, good stuff. Okay, so I'm now going to put in a argument, and you guys can agree or disagree. Let's start off with what's a typical one. Okay, let's go with this argument. Okay. Okay. The economy is now more important than stopping the virus. Okay. Let's say that is my, okay, I am person A. Okay. I have now said this, the economy is now more important. Oh, sorry, I've just realized I made a little mistake there. Forgive me. Let me rewrite that. Okay. Than stopping the virus. I'm saying a strong statement here. The economy is now more important than stopping the virus. Too many people are losing money. Okay, so that's me, person A, that's the argument. Over to you guys. Can you now reply? Try and reply to that statement, okay? You can agree, disagree, or try to go for somewhere in the middle. Maria says, in my opinion, the government knows management, the situation. Until now, they are doing a very well job. Very close, a very good job. They are either doing very well, full stop, or very good job. Okay, well is an adverb, and we can't go adverb noun. So it's either a very good job or very well. Okay. So guys, have a go. Try and reply to my argument, my opinion. Actually, should I say? Well, it's not my opinion necessarily. Let's person A. Okay, person A has said the economy is now more important than stopping the virus. Too many people are losing money. Okay, so that's person A's opinion. Have a go. Can you try and respond to person A? Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, or maybe you want to go for somewhere in the middle. Maybe you want to say, okay, I see your point, but what about, for example? Have a go. See if you can try and continue the conversation with person A. Okay, Erdogan says, I agree with you. Many people losing job. Ooh, close. Many people are losing their jobs. Many people are losing their jobs. Okay, so there we go, Erdogan. Alejandra says, I understand your point. Well done. Good start there, Alejandra. But what about the Latin countries where the people need to work and live? As Colombia, where the government doesn't help anybody. You don't need doesn't help to anybody. Just doesn't help anybody. Okay, you don't need a preposition after help in this case. In fact, I can't think of an example when we would put to after help. I'm sure there's an exception somewhere, but I can't think of one. Oksana says, I see your point, but what about economy problems if we have a lot of infected people? Good, good. Well done, Oksana. Okay, guys, I like what you're going for. I understand your point, but what about? I see your point, but what about? What about economic problems? That's the only difference there. We'd go for economic problems. And Erdogan with, I agree with you. Many people are losing their jobs. Okay, Irana says, I'm on your side. People should work, but be careful. Okay, good. Okay, I think we're doing a good job here. So person A is now going to come back. Okay, person A is now going to come back. Person A, okay? Person A. Person A is now going to come out with a very, let's say, a strong opinion now, okay? So how are you going to respond to this strong opinion? I think it's, let's say, I think what has Sandra said? I see your point, but a lot of people are losing their jobs, not they jobs, their jobs, and going to fear about their future. Okay. So Sandra, just think a little bit between when you need to use they and their. They and their. Just have a think about that. Okay. Person A. Okay, let's say someone says, the virus isn't that bad. It's all fake news, for example. Now, how are you going to, I think the virus isn't that bad. It's all fake news. I think, yeah, we'll leave it like that. So this is a very strong opinion. Okay. How are you going to respond to person A? Person A is coming out with a really strong opinion. The virus isn't that bad. It's all fake news. So the person is trying to, what you would say, say it's not a problem, really. So how are you going to respond to person A? Maybe you might say, I beg to differ, which means I disagree. Maybe you might want to go in quite strong by saying, oh, definitely not. You can go with this. You can always say, I think you might be mistaken, for example, if you want to be polite, which simply means, I think you are wrong. So that's always another option. What about this? Okay, Erdogan says, I see your point. Oh, but what about? What about the borders? They are still closed, okay? They are still closed. Okay? Not a bad effort, though, Erdogan. I see what you're trying to do, and well done for trying. Alejandro says, I see your point, but what about the uncertainty of this situation? Alejandro, well done. I think that's a very good sentence. Well done. Oh, you didn't need to delay. You didn't need to delete it, Alejandro. It was good. It was a good sentence. Don't worry about it. Okay, you've reposted it. I see your point, but what about the uncertainty of this situation? Okay, good. Okay, guys, you're doing very well. I know some of your levels, and I know that some people, we have some people from elementary and pre-intermediate here who are really doing very, very well. This is not easy stuff, so you're doing an excellent job, guys. Well done. Okay, let's come out with this one here. Okay, let's go with something a little bit stronger. Oh, all right, very good, excellent. Let's go with these food markets in China should all be closed down. Okay, so stopped. Closed down means stopped. Okay, should be stopped. Okay, let's say someone says that. How are you going to respond? Maybe you want to say, interesting point, but what about? Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. And then we'll change topic and we'll go on to a slightly different topic. Okay, so let's see what you guys say. How do you respond to someone saying that? I think at the moment, the reaction to COVID-19 is a little bit controversial. If you see anything from America, you do see some very strong opinions that might not be very accurate. Let's put it that way. So part of this is trying to learn how to be a little bit diplomatic in English as well. Okay. But yes, let me know. We'll move on to another topic after this, and we'll see what you guys try to come out with. I can think of a few controversial topics. And then at the end, I'll tell you how you can end a conversation if you and the other person just cannot agree on anything as well. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. These food markets in China should all be closed down. Okay, so you're hearing someone saying that. How are you going to respond? Will you agree with them? Maybe you will disagree, or maybe you will go for the middle ground. I see your point, but what about? I understand, but let's consider. Or maybe you strongly agree. Maybe you might want to say, absolutely. Or you strongly disagree. Definitely not. So you have options, you have choices. And then we'll move on to another topic of conversation. I have a few topics in mind that we can talk about. Alejandro says, not necessarily, because all people have coronavirus. Okay, there we go. Well done, Alejandro. I see what you're trying to do there, and well done. Okay, you're really trying to go for the right language. I think that's very well done. So well done, Alejandro. Let's see. Would anyone else like to have a go? This isn't easy stuff, so you do have to think before you write. And then we'll move on to another topic. We've got a few choices. Some topics do come to mind automatically, especially anything to do with the environment, veganism, for example. Depending on where you are in the world, you also have topics like pro-life, pro-choice, for example. Erdogan says, I see your point. Absolutely. Must be closed in China food markets. Okay, I see what you're going for there. I see your point. And you might say absolutely. Actually, I would put you put the absolutely at the start of your sentence. Absolutely. There it sounds like you strongly agree. So you might want to say absolutely. Absolutely. I totally see your point. Okay, so you might want to do that. Absolutely. I totally see your point. Georgia says, I agree with you because the virus started in China. Okay, so now let's change the topic. Let's go on to a different subject. Okay. Let's go with, Oksana says, you might be right, but in my opinion, they should close not all shops at the markets, only which sell wild animals. Okay, Oksana, I really like that answer, because you started off by kind of agreeing with person A, but then you introduce, I agree to this point, but what about, sort of thing. You introduced another idea. So I really like your answer. I thought that was good. Sandra says, I see your point, but I need to know why you have this meaning. Why you have this meaning. Why you have this, instead of meaning, I would say why you have this view, okay? Why you have this point of view, which means opinion. Okay, so I think that's what you're going for, okay? Good. Okay, let's change topic, and we're just going to give, I want to try and help you out with some examples here. Let's go with, okay, let's go with the controversial topic of Facebook. Okay, so some people might say that Facebook is bad because of all the fake news. Other people might say, no, Facebook is great and all the rest of it. Okay, what can we do? So person A says, person A, Facebook has made things worse. All you hear on it is fake news and fake news and lies. Okay, so really a strong statement from person A, because this person really does not like Facebook. Okay, how can you respond to this and try to expand, develop your answers? Okay, so you can start off by saying granted, which means yes, there are problems with Facebook, but let's not forget, and then you go on to explain good points. Okay, so you want this word granted, which means yes, there are some good points in that argument. But let's not forget, and that's important, let's not forget, and then you talk about the good points. So if you're responding to person A, you can say, granted, there are problems with Facebook. But let's not forget, that it is a very good site for people to talk to friends and arrange events. Okay, so this is what you're trying to go for. You want to agree with one aspect, okay, so one part of their argument, but you want to offer an idea, an argument that the other person has not thought of. So you can go with this. Granted, there are problems with Facebook, but let's not forget that it is a very good site for people to talk to friends and arrange events. This is how you can help bring balance to an argument. Okay, and this is what we're looking for, the balance side of things. So this is a really good word to know, granted. Okay, which means yes, there are problems. But when you use this, you are always going to, a but will come with this. Yes, think of it this way, yes, but. Alejandra says, it is, okay, don't forget it. It is a good point. I agree with your point, because there are many fake news created just to confuse the people. Okay, so that's a good starting point, Alejandra. That's a good starting point. So I'm now going to come out with another statement, and I would like you guys to try and respond. Okay, I'm going to try and I would like you guys to reply and try and use this one, okay? The word granted, okay? This time I'm going to go with Instagram because it is owned by Facebook. So Instagram is very unhealthy and makes people unhappy because they are always looking at other people, and it makes them feel bad about themselves. Okay, so this is a strong statement from person A. Instagram is very unhealthy and makes people unhappy because they are always looking at other people, and it makes them feel bad about themselves. This person is probably talking about maybe people at the gym, always showing themselves at the gym looking fit and healthy. Maybe models, for example, good looking people, maybe food, maybe work, whatever it might be. Okay. Sandra says, granted, there are problems with Facebook, but Facebook is a good site to search for friends. Friends, S just there. I didn't see. Really close there, Sandra. It's a very good site to search for friends who you haven't seen in a long time. So really close there, Sandra. You just need to think about the last part of your sentence. Oksana says, granted, there are problems with Facebook, but let's not forget it is a big opportunity for people from all over the world to communicate with each other. You're just forgetting the two there, but really good stuff. Okay, so, okay, guys, you're doing really well. We have a few more minutes of the lesson. Have a go. Try and answer person A with the Instagram comment. So this person is talking about Instagram, and this person doesn't think Instagram is healthy. Let me know what you guys think. How can you reply to this person? And can you try to use this one? Granted, but. Okay, let's see what you guys come out with. And that will take us to the end of the session. Alejandra says, I agree with you. And also they listen hours conversation for do marketing. Oh, right. Okay, I see what you're trying to say there, Alejandra. You're trying to say that you agree, and sites like Facebook listen to your conversations, and it's a marketing tool is what we would say. I see what you're going there for there, Alejandra. Well done. Good effort. Maria says, I think all social media, I think we have the opportunity to put in private. That is good. Okay, it's a good option. Yes. Okay, guys, we've got a couple of more minutes left. Would anyone else like to try and reply to the Instagram's opinion? And that will take us to the end of the lesson. Let's see. Tomorrow, by the way, guys, we will have, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's lesson. It's called all-time favorites, and we will be looking at comparatives and superlatives, and we will be able to talk about films, music, and sport, for example. Maria says, I like Instagram. Good. I'm glad you do like Instagram. But let me know, do you think there are any bad points about Instagram? Okay, guys, we have 1 minute left. And then that will be the end of today's lesson. Okay. In your private time, by the way, outside your lesson, try and use some of this language when talking to your flatmates and friends in English. It's a really good way. Speaking is so important, and during this period, it's really important that you try to find as much opportunities to speak English. Okay, guys, so thank you very much for joining the lesson today. If you would like to add any other answers to today's lesson, please leave in the comment section underneath the video. To all of you who have written in the live chat section, thank you very much. Really, you all had a really good go today, so really well done. And like the video, and give a like for yourself for a good your participation was very good in class today. Erdogan says, thanks a lot, Richard. Enjoyed the lesson. Thank you, Erdogan. I'm very happy to hear you enjoyed the lesson. Alejandro says, thanks. Thank you, Alejandro. Maria says, thanks, Richard. Have a nice afternoon. You're welcome, Maria. You too. Evelina says, I like Instagram because I know very important people. Excellent. Good stuff, Evelina. Oksana says, thanks a lot. So does Georgia, Evelina, and Irina. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. To those of you who are watching but have not commented, thank you very much for watching. And to all of you who have liked the video, thank you as well. Please make sure you share the video as well and the channel with friends who you know want to learn English as well. You're welcome, Sandra. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow, same time at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day, and bye for now.